Okay, here we go. Stand by. 3, 2, 1, action.
Assume nothing.
Brash, bald-faced blasphemy.
Question everything.
I find it extremely hard to imagine.
Open your eyes.
It is quite all right to be an atheist.
The fastest growing group of people in the country has been measured as being those who have no belief or who are atheists.
You don't have to be apologetic or quiet about it.
Challenge the opposition.
You see religion on 100 fronts losing the argument.
And start thinking. This is The Thinking Atheist Worldwide.
Today's broadcast is brought to you by a new sponsor. It's Harry's.com. Harry's Razors. A very, in my opinion, a very impressive company. That's why they're on the radio. It's a great razor and a great packaged gift that can be personalized to anybody you're giving it to. Free shipping, $5 off your first purchase when you go to Harry's.com and you type in the coupon code Thinking Atheist. Log on to the website, check it out. Harry's.com. Promo code Thinking Atheist. Had a pretty good week. I just finished the Christmas video for Atheist TV. It will post later today on my YouTube channel. It is a look at Christmas from a few fronts. We address the war on Christmas, right? The supposed annual war on Christmas. We're waiting for Fox News to get their knickers in a twist over it. They're about due. Maybe they've already started. I don't watch Fox News. It talks about the origins of many of our Christmas traditions. Where did that stuff come from? And I've covered this in a previous video called To Xmas and Beyond. But Atheist TV was asking for a longer form piece. This was going to be about 15 minutes long. And I said, yeah, I'd be glad to do that. So I did some on-camera work and elaborated on a lot of this stuff and just sort of went down that path. We looked at the Bible and its accounts of Jesus, the contradictions within Matthew and Luke in relation to the nativity story. We talk about white Jesus. We talk about the founding fathers and whether or not it's a Christian nation, and essentially draw a big circle around the fact that Christians don't own Christmas. And if you look at the origins of the holiday, neither does Jesus. If I remember here after the show's over, I'll go and put the link to that video in the description box. It's not going to release for a few hours, but I know most of the people will be listening in archive well after this thing has gone public. It will be on Atheist TV on Roku, but it will also be on my YouTube channel. And it was kind of fun to do. I think it's not deferential. It's not, how do I say this? It's designed so that perhaps there might be some quasi-religious people on the fence, some Sunday Christians who are just kind of hanging around, cultural Christians who may come across it and they can watch it without feeling attacked. I produced it that way on purpose. The language of the script is done that way on purpose. And I might take some heat from atheists for that. Why weren't you harder on it? Why weren't you edgier? Why didn't you just really destroy all of these falsehoods out there? Well, I think the information's good, but I presented it in a way that I hope will be accessible. I mean, we're about changing minds out there, or at least reminding people that it's okay to begin asking questions and doubting stuff that deserves doubt. And so anyway, when it comes out, I'll be curious to see the response, but I'm excited it's done. As of last night, it's done, and that's always a good feeling. And then yesterday at like 3 o'clock in the afternoon, I submitted the first draft for my second book. And now we go through the copy editing process. I promise I'm not going to talk. I mention it once a show just because it's something I'm doing all the time now. You know, I'm getting it ready. It's just always on the forefront here. Mr. Deity, Brian Dalton, has written the foreword for it. And it's hysterical, and I'm excited. So we'll look for it probably February, March, April. I don't know. We'll see how long the publishing process takes. I've got illustrations done by a brilliant guy named Vincent DePorter. Vincent has drawn for SpongeBob. He's drawn for DC Comics. He's done Scooby-Doo. He's drawn for Nickelodeon. He's a genius. I've always wanted to be able to draw. I've always sort of envied those who could do that. And I am amazed beyond words at those who can. I look at their work and I go, how do you do that? And, you know, I can video produce, I can host a podcast, you know, I can play a little piano. That's about it. I can't paint, I can't draw, I can't dance, I can't do any of this stuff. But being an artist from the sense of painting or drawing to me has always been one of those things that if you had a genie and you could rub the lamp and ask for something, that might be on my list. I'd like to be able to paint or draw. I'd like to be able to do that. And those who do and do it well, I tell you, they're like rock stars to me. And Vincent is definitely that. He took what I had done and he just took it to a whole other level. So we'll make a big stink about that when it happens here coming in the spring of 2015. This coming weekend, I'm going to be part of a fundraiser at Dogma Debate. They're doing like this 24-hour broadcast-a-thon. They're doing it for Foundation Beyond Belief. Bunch of people on the roster are going to go 24 hours straight. I've got an hour slot in there. And so I've been excited to be a part of that. You can see more. You can go to dogmadebate.com. You'll see David Smalley there and the microphone on the homepage. And there's a link to the broadcast-a-thon. You can just click it for the entire lineup. And it's for a worthy cause. The Foundation Beyond Belief is an awesome organization. Did you read the article about the people who want to open up McDonald's inside churches to attract people? We've all seen the gimmicks that churches do to try to attract people. I've seen churches give away a new car. I kid you not. Drove a car. They actually reinforced the stage, had a big stage. It was a mega church. They drove the car onto the stage. I think they gave it away or did some kind of a raffle or something. You know, come to our church and you could win a new car. That kind of thing. They're always having events and gimmicks and gatherings and whatnot. Well, there was an article, I just pulled this one out of Entrepreneur magazine, dated December 1st. It says, does the modern church need Big Macs to bring more worshipers into the fold? At least one religious group believes so. Members of Christian design consultancy Lude Design, I don't even know if I said that right, launched an Indiegogo campaign to open a McDonald's franchise inside a church. It's called the McMass Project, and they won $1 million to try to open the first McMass church. The reasoning, according to the article, behind the McMass Project is that while church attendance is declining, McDonald's has proven to be consistently successful at getting people to come through their doors. The Indiegogo page says it's time for churches to engage with entrepreneurship. The McMass Project is helping churches keep pace in the modern world. Now, their goal is $1 million for the prototype church. So far, they have raised $167. So they still have some chicken left on this bone. We'll have to see exactly how it does. RT.com had an article I could not believe. Came out today. Says, Canada family keeps father's corpse for 6 months, praying for resurrection. A small community of Christians in Canada left the body of a deceased member for 6 months, trusting God to resurrect him from the dead. The 52-year-old who suffered from diabetes got a leg infection sometime in March, but he refused to go to the hospital, trusting God to cure him. Eventually, he died around March the 20th. His name was Kaling Wald. His wife, Mrs. Wald, covered the body with 2 blankets, the head with a beanie, padlocked the bedroom door, and sealed vents to keep the decomposition stench from the house. She believed her husband would eventually be resurrected and return to his family. We were trusting God, we thought. Okay, Lord, you know better. The corpse had been lying upstairs for 6 months before the sheriff had arrived to evict them due to failure to pay the mortgage. The sheriff discovered the body, which had at the time been partially eaten by rodents and decomposed so badly it could not be identified with photographs. Now, here's the funny part. According to the same article, it says her faith was not shaken and she expects her husband to come back from the dead in due time. The guy is worm food, decomposed, eaten by rats, and she still thinks one day he's just going to sit up and go, honey, I'm home. Oh my God, that's just awesome. Truth is stranger than fiction, my friends. Finally, before we get started with our topic at hand, I have to give kudos out to Marlo Thomas, who represents St. Jude Children's Research Hospital, on the Today Show just a few days ago with Colin Hayward Toland and his family to talk about how they found out that Colin had a brain tumor when he was 2 years old, and now he's cancer-free after getting treatment at St. Jude's. And so, as she was introducing the segment on the Today Show, the host, Natalie Morales, said this, quote, Colin's story is just another example of the incredible work, the miracles that are performed at St. Jude. And Marlo Thomas said this, it's not a miracle, though. It's science. This is what we do at St. Jude. And I stood up out of my chair and applauded. If prayer worked, there would be no St. Jude's Children's Research Hospital. Thank you, Marlo, for injecting some common sense into the discussion. Our topic today is called If the World Ended Tomorrow. Imagine this. We received the news today that this is our last day on Earth, our last day pretty much anywhere. How would we populate the final hours of our life? What people would we see? What foods would we eat? What would we do? What would our reaction be? Would we freak out? Would we panic? Would we bask in the warm glow of inevitability? That's what we're going to talk about. How would you spend those final ticks of the clock? And there's one cheat. You can go anywhere on planet Earth. You can snap your fingers and be anywhere. Now, you can't change time, and you can't change the inevitable outcome, right? The world will end tomorrow. But if you could go anywhere, where would you go? What would you do, and how would you do it? That's what we're talking about on our broadcast today. But first, a huge thanks out to our new show sponsor, Harry's Razors. I have them as a sponsor because I really do like their style. You should see the list of sponsors I've rejected over the last year. I mean, I've had insurance companies, satellite TV providers, tax assistance companies, invention services, hair removal, cruise lines, right? And I've just said no because they were not a good fit for this broadcast. But I really dig Harry's Razors. I use them. They're high quality. They got a great weight and feel to them. They don't feel flimsy or cheap. You get a lot of bang for your buck. They're far better than the disposables I was using, and they're tailor-made for gifting, which is perfect for the month of December. They have a very slick presentation. You can actually see the box and the layout on their website at harrys.com. The company started less than 2 years ago by a couple of guys who just had an idea to do the whole shaving thing better than the big guys. And they offer different sets. They've got the Truman set, the Winston set, the Winter Winston set. They've got the shave gels and aftershave, and even a refill plan customized for you, which is based on how often you shave. Once a day, once a week, whatever. You can customize it. Shipping directly from their factory in Germany. They're making a huge splash, and they're just cool, providing a better shaving experience and a better value than industry giants like Schick and Gillette. You don't have to go to the store either because they ship it right to you for free. I'm just saying, I like them. I think you'll like them. They just came out with a limited edition line for the holidays, giftable set starting at $15, which means with my $5 off promo code, you get a razor, 3 quality blades, a tube of foaming gel or shave cream for $10. It's awesome. Harrys.com. HARRYS.com. A shave good enough to gift. Go to harrys.com, promo code Thinking Atheist to get $5 off. Harrys.com, promo code Thinking Atheist. Roger sent me a message about his final day on Earth. And he said this: He said, if I had one day to live, I could instantly travel and I had the money to do everything. I'd spend my last 24 hours doing what I love the most, what I've always wanted to do. I'd also make my Facebook account public so that anyone who wanted to know about me could have the chance, with everything from baby pictures to favorite books to my blogs with game concepts, responses to theistic arguments, and resources for learning languages. Makes me wonder if Roger is that a private account just because you don't like the idea of other people who are not Facebook friends sort of perusing your page, or is it a dummy account? I mean, I'm curious. He said, I'd visit where I grew up in Pennsylvania to see how it's changed. Maybe spend an hour each in various countries that I otherwise hope to travel to one day with any friends, family members, and strangers that would want to go with me. Japan, Mexico, Spain, China, South Korea, England, and Sweden. Since I love international food, I'd have small samples of different dishes at each country while practicing Spanish, Chinese, Japanese, and the tiny bit of Korean I've learned so far. How much Chinese can you learn in a day? Aren't there like 900 Chinese characters? Wasn't it the Larry the Cable Guy gag where he was talking about what Wheel of Fortune would be like with Chinese characters? Where instead of saying, give me an S or an L or a T or a Y, you'd say, give me that little upside down house with a goat in it. This is Chinese Wheel of Fortune. He said, religious debate is a huge hobby of mine, so I'd spend some time debating. Ray Comfort would be my first choice. As a gamer, I'd also like to have one last chance to play Perfect Dark, or maybe try the Wii U version of the new Smash Brothers. Lastly, I'd want to get in the fastest car I could get my hands on and drive faster than I ever would, worrying about a speeding ticket or losing my license, probably on a track. Let's see, like Mazda Laguna Seca, so that no one else would be in danger. During my last moments, I'd thank everyone there for what they'd done and wish them success in life. I'd give everything I own to those closest to me or anyone who needs it. The perfect place would be under a clear night sky so that everyone could gaze at the many suns above as they were at different times in the past. I won't deny fearing death, but I'd do what I could to live that last day to the fullest and make it count. Roger, thanks for the message. A lot of people on the Facebook threads I noticed were saying that on their last day, they would take revenge on those who would wrong them. And we had quite a few people who said that they would be all about forgiveness. But I thought that was an interesting sort of a contrast there. If the world ended tomorrow, I'd go out and I'd beat so-and-so to death or something. It was a little alarming, And granted, the vast majority of people were not saying that. But there were a few in there, and I thought, man, it's the last day on earth, and you're going to make it about somebody else? I mean, that's how I approach that. We've all been wronged in our lives. We all have somebody that we've at times fantasized about. Boy, if there were no rules and, it was a video game and whatnot, we've all had those moments. And of course, because we are civilized beings, we are evolved beings, we would never do that. We would never do that, not just because there are consequences, but because it is morally wrong to do that. But, if it was the last day on earth and all of a sudden you're going to go out and pop a cap in somebody who's done you wrong, you've essentially made your last day about them? I don't know. I mean, that's how I see it. Maybe that's satisfying to you. Kat said, I probably wouldn't do anything special besides be with my family, kids and grandkids. Maybe go outside and drink in the sky until it happens. It reminds me of an episode from Serling's Night Gallery, The Boy Who Predicted Earthquakes. His predictions forewarned and saved lives. When he foresees the sun going nova, and the end of life as we know it, he doesn't tell that. Instead, he says tomorrow will be the beginning of everything new. I'd like to look at it that way. The dinosaurs had their time. Eventually, our time will be over too. Daryl said, first thing I do is punch in the face whoever told me. What, that the world was ending? I'd rather not know. He says, that's pretty good point, I guess. I would want to know. Daryl said, screw that. I'd rather not know, and I would deck the person who spilled the beans. August said, no big changes except for not going to work. Probably just spend the day playing with my dogs. Gregory says, when the end of the world comes, I want to be in Kentucky. Oh, it's a quote. When the end of the world comes, I want to be in Kentucky because everything there happens 20 years after it happens anywhere else. And that is a quote from Mark Twain. You guys in the chat room, would you want to know if it was the final day? If the clock was ticking 24 hours left, would you want that information, or would ignorance be bliss? I'm just curious. By the way, if you want to call the switchboard and share what you would do on the last day on Earth if the world ended tomorrow, give me a buzz on the switchboard. Quentin said, hi, Seth. I used to work at a bookshop in my hometown one day. One day I was shelving what I lovingly called the science fiction section, but it could also be called the wonderful shelves of woo. We currently have 2 books by woo master Deepak Chopra himself. In this section, we have books about prophecy and prophets that make me endlessly wonder why people read these books. So, one day I was pulling books that had been requested or ordered off Amazon, and one of the books I had to pull was The Late Great Planet Earth. I'd heard of the book in debate, but never really looked at it, and so I did. And I couldn't help but laugh not only at the incorrect statements, clearly the world didn't end in 1980. The Bible states that nobody knows the day or the hour, Matthew chapter 24, verse 36. The sheer idiocy that people believe the world will soon end shocks me. If it happens, fine. If not, fine too. Either way, I'm going to live my life to the best of my power and do the best I can to make the world a better place. Best wishes, Quentin. P.S. While looking for this book, I was listening to REM's End of the World. You know, we did a podcast called The End of the World where we talked about we talked about a large amount of the end of the world predictions. And it happened over hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years. It's the end times, whether it's Jesus or a comet or whatever. Mass extinction. It's over. The end of the world is nigh. And of course, nobody has been proven correct. The last one outside of the Mayan calendar scare was the late great Harold Camping, right? He predicted the end of the world 3 or 4 different times over a few decades and didn't get any one of them right. Finally had to come out and apologize. Athena said, I would react with fear and panic. Duh. Brent says, max out the credit cards. Samuel said, I'd go on a massive shopping splurge at IKEA, but I probably wouldn't have time to assemble my purchases or go back to get all the missing parts. That is hysterical. Robert said, I'd reach out one last time to those I've lost contact with, those who wronged me. I'd simply forgive without them even asking for my forgiveness. To those who simply drifted away, I'd thank them for the time they gave me in their lives. I'd play some board games with my daughter. We'd play with our dog. I'd enjoy a few brews from my beer cellar, but not enough to get drunk. I can't give my last hours to my daughter all inebriated. I listened to some vinyl records for as long as I could before the power went out. If it goes out before things go kablooey, it would be a good day. When I was in the faith, we used to talk about loving your enemies. Forgive those who have wronged you. Regardless of what their disposition is, it only damages you. You have to forgive them. And I understand to a degree that sentiment. But I've changed my tune on it a little bit. By the way, everybody in the chat room said yes, they would like to know that the world was going to end. They would want that information. That's interesting. That's an enlightened chat room right there. I'm not sure that I agree anymore with the idea of forgiving those who have hugely wronged you. Now, I'm not talking about forgiving someone who has come to you and sincerely said, I was wrong, I blew it, I'm asking you for forgiveness. I mean, that's a no-brainer to me, right? I mean, you can carry a grudge there, but that doesn't really make sense to me. I mean, if someone is sincere when they say, I blew it, I wronged you, I hurt you, I damaged you, and I know that, and I wish I could go back and fix it, but I can't. I want you to know that I'm genuinely sorry, and I beg you for your forgiveness. That kind of thing. Yeah, I mean, we're talking about an opportunity for healing. Not that you have to be blood brothers, but that you can say, yes, I do forgive you. I get that. But the people who totally screwed you, and they're still out there some way, I don't see how forgiving them helps me. Not that I carry it with me like an albatross around my neck, not that it's always on the burner, not that I'm stewing about it, that it's eating me alive from the inside. That's not what I'm talking about. But, someone did something and they have no remorse and they were a genuine jerk about it. They did legitimate harm and then they went off. And I'm supposed to forgive them, just give them an automatic forgiveness that's supposed to make me a better person? I don't think I buy that. Would I forgive everybody who had done wrong to me? Probably not. I certainly wouldn't do anything. I'd want to make the day about those who've been a positive influence in my life, who bring me joy, who fill my heart. But the idea of seeking people out and forgiving them, I don't know. Could you guys do it? Would you do it? Message in from Met. M-E-T-T-E, did I say that right? I hope so. Or is it Mete? Because of all the people that would take the opportunity to go nuts and rape and murder and set fire to everything, I would zap to somewhere desolate but comfortable and enjoy the day peacefully. The end of the world would not scare me as much as all the people wanting to get a final kick out of ruining it for others. That's a great point. The world will end tomorrow, right? And the sheeple freak. Pandemonium, rioting, all bets are off. And we're not talking about all those immoral atheists out there doing it. It would be people of all shapes and stripes and colors and cultures and religions and backgrounds and whatever. You would find many people at their best, and you would also find many people at their worst. And it might be a very dangerous world for the 24 hours that you have left. There are no consequences. There's no police. There's no prison system. There's nothing that will happen. Nothing that they can do to me. I will go out and I will create a living hell on earth because I can. I'm just going to rage my way into oblivion. There are those people who will do that. So I wonder if you would need to find a safe zone somewhere. How many people would automatically believe it was the apocalypse? This has been foretold. They'd walk out onto the front porch and hold up their sacred book or whatever. Say, this is no surprise to some of us. We knew it was coming. I know a bunch of people who'd end up inside a church somewhere. They'd all be gathering and singing and holding hands, and they might be thanking God. Thank you, Lord, for the end. Thank you. Thank you, Lord, for blessed oblivion here on earth so that we can start the next chapter with you. Can I get an amen? And it might be a kind of coping mechanism for them, right? If they believe that it's just the next chapter. This was just a warm-up. The real life begins next. It alleviates fear, gives them something to focus on, and kind of gives the whole thing its own sense of purpose, which I think is the function in many ways of religion to begin with. Right? For those who haven't figured out that it's just fine to construct a purpose for themselves. They require someone else to hand them their purpose. And because they are terrified of not being alive, they construct or embrace the idea that they'll never die. Now, the apocalypse for them might just be some kind of validation. Sonny said, what would I do if the world ended tomorrow? It's funny you should ask. Back in November of 2006, my world was turned upside down. In a 3-month time period, I filed for bankruptcy, was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, and filed for divorce after discovering that my now ex-husband was arrested for rape and incest and was sitting in a jail cell in a different state. Needless to say, if I never see 2006 again, it'll be too soon. She said, how could this happen? I did everything right. I was a good mother. I didn't do drugs. I put my kids in a Christian school. I didn't cheat on my husband. I made my family go to church every week, sometimes 2 to 3 times a week. I did all the right things at exactly the right time. This wasn't fair. Why me? These thoughts permeated my psyche on a daily basis, while my prayers continued to fall on deaf ears. The more I suffered, the more I began to realize all my fasting and praying wasn't doing anything, and maybe this was all just a crock of shit. I began my MS treatment December of 2006. The initial treatment I was put on for my MS was not working for me. I was put on IV infusion therapy. I was on the IV therapy for 7 years before I relocated to the East Coast and was told by my new neurologist I was on the IV treatment 6 years too long. That I tested positive for the JC virus antibody, which increases my risk of developing, wow, this is tough here, progressive multifocal leukoencephalopathy. Hope I said that right. It's PML. PML is a disease of the white matter of the brain caused by a virus infection that targets cells that make myelin, the material that insulates nerve cells, neurons. The most prominent symptoms are clumsiness, progressive weakness, visual, speech, and sometimes personality changes. The progression of deficits leads to life-threatening disability and frequently death. This new diagnosis put a stamp on my departure from religion, and I never looked back. I said all this to say that I've been living my life as though the world would end tomorrow. Because for me, it just might. I've reconnected with my brother and sister, both of whom I never really had a close relationship in the past. I made a point to call my mom almost every day to tell her I love her. I text my adult sons every week to tell them the same. I make myself look upward at the sky every day and remind myself how fortunate I am just to be here, living on a planet that's flying through space in an infinite universe. If finances weren't an issue, I'd visit each and every one of my friends and family members just to tell them how much I love them and how special they are to me. But since I can't do that, I'll have to settle for messages via social media and emails. I guess you could say that had none of these events happened to me, I would still be under the influence of the mass delusion called religion. So in a way, it was a blessing, pardon the pun, a blessing in disguise. Love the show and thanks for all you do. Sonny. Chad said my last day would start without my wife as she likes to sleep in. Oh, it's the last day on earth, Chad. Wake her ass up. Oh, wait, I see. I would have the first tea time in the morning. Okay, all right, you know what? Just let her sleep. I would have the first tea time in the morning at Augusta National. Oh, good choice. Following a devastating round would be coffee and an early lunch with my wife and young son in Italy, followed by a lazy drift down the streets of Venice. We'd have dessert in Paris, and then high tea in London, visiting a few sites at each location as time allows. We'd then be off to New York for a Broadway show. Next, it's dinner and wine in Greece, dessert in Switzerland, and a Guinness and a Jameson in Ireland. Finally, we'd come back to the States to run around and be silly with our energetic toddler in a park in San Francisco at sunset. We'd then come home to Colorado and prepare my son for bed reading all of his favorite books twice. Once my little prince is comfortably asleep, my wife and I would retire to our bedroom to do what lovers do in bedrooms twice. Now, as you read that, you're probably thinking, hey man, you're stretching the rules. You don't have time for all that in one day. I see your point. Perhaps even with the cheat of teleportation, there isn't time to accomplish all of that. Well, screw you. It's my fantasy. Oh, crap. I didn't make time for sushi. Chad, thanks for the message. Definitely sushi on my last day. There's a little restaurant here in Tulsa called the Sushi House. And I've kind of become a sushi snob. I used to hate it. I think what happened was I didn't really understand it. I went and didn't have someone help me order the first time, and I'm a texture guy. So what I got was just so squishy. Squishy and tentacles. No, right? I needed like a gateway sushi to get me in. And so I went back and had Natalie order for me. Look, what do you think I would like? And before you know it, we were going once a week, which is kind of an expensive habit, by the way. And we would sit at the bar, right up at the sushi bar, and watch our sushi chef at the place. His name is Johnny. I'm sure he has like a convoluted, like Vietnamese name, but everybody calls him Johnny. And this was at a place that's not open anymore in another part of the city. And it was a tradition. We would go all the time. And it became like our date, our place, our chef. And then we went one day. I have a point to this story, so hang on. I went one day and the place had closed. They weren't in the greatest of locations. And even though their stuff was freaking amazing, they just weren't being seen by people. And one day we went and the door was locked and the sign was dark and they were done. And we thought, well, Johnny's got to be working somewhere in this city, right? So we tried out the other places. And just the magic was not there. We tried this place and we tried that place. The whole time, everywhere we went, we're looking around. We're looking back and in the kitchen. We're looking behind the bar. We're looking for our chef because he'd become kind of a buddy, you know. And this must have gone on for 6 months, maybe longer. And we ended up in a suburb of Tulsa, a city called Broken Arrow. And we walked in the door and we saw him behind the counter and we both just lit up. I mean, it was a reunion. Oh my, Johnny, what do you do? We go up, we're all smiling really big. And he even, we call Natalie, she has a nickname, we call her Stella. It's something she picked up years and years ago. She's got a Stella handbag, a Stella tennis bag, and they just started to call her Stella. Everybody on her tennis team had a nickname. Hers was Stella. Well, that's her affectionate name. That's what we call her. And he's like, Stella. He knew exactly who we were. We came, we sat at the bar once again, and we kind of had a moment. And now we go back. We go back all the time. We should have a brass nameplate on the bar at the sushi house because we are always there. And every time we walk in, it's just a thing. If they close that place down, it'd be like a death in the family. In fact, we're so tight, believe it or not, there's 3 sushi chefs back there. I didn't want to leave anybody out, but Johnny's our guy. They have these lightsaber sushi chopsticks online. And Bridget Gaudette sent me some for a birthday gift. And they're just awesome. They're transparent. I mean, they've got the lightsaber handle and then they're transparent. How long is it? Hang on. I got them right here. They're probably 9 inches. And then they've got the button on them. They run on these little, these tiny little jewelry batteries. And they can light up. And you can buy the red one, you can buy the blue one, you can buy the green one. You know, you can decide if you're good or evil. You can just decide. And so they're not functional. You don't use them. But they're just an awesome conversation piece. In fact, I've got them right here in my office. They're kind of propped up here in this little jar next to my monitors. Well, I bought 3 pairs of them for the sushi people. And so here, the next time we go, I've got them all boxed and wrapped, and we're going to give them to all the sushi chefs. So all the guys behind the counter are going to have lightsaber chopsticks, and it's just going to be fun. I'm going to try to get it on video. But one of the reasons I brought that story up is because it has become one of the places that when we talk about it, we just feel comfortable. We just smile. It's kind of home. They have become a kind of family to us. And if it was our last day on earth, I have little doubt that we would be spending at least an hour of it at the sushi bar. And Johnny would be there, and I would order the Tokyo Tower and a spicy California. And she would order the Tulsa with yellowtail and something called the Dragon Lady. And we'd get some combo tempura. You know what I'm saying? We would just order the stuff that we always order, and we would be among people that we have a connection to, and we would be in a good place. If you could, would you Try to recreate some of the fondest memories of your life. Maybe when you were younger and life was simpler, would you go back to where you went to college and walk the campus again? Would you look up old friends from high school and see where they were in their lives? Their favorite songs, selections of music that you would want? I don't know. If I had to pick, it'd be difficult. I stopped listening to music for a period in my life. When you work in music radio and music becomes a job, in my opinion, it's harder to enjoy it. I mean, when you're playing, 12 to 15 tunes an hour on Kiss FM, and all you hear all day is just one song, music, bam, 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 bam. And you see the business of music. There's a magic to it that can be lost. And I found myself opting out of music and listening mostly to like talk and books, audio books, and that type of stuff. And, but there have been times in my life when I really, really, really have listened to music. They say the music you listen to when you're a teenager becomes the soundtrack of your life. Like the stuff you listen to between the ages, I want to say it's like 12 and 18, 12 and 17. You can hear those songs at any point in your life and you have an automatic connection because they were there during this critical sort of formative time as you were getting your driver's license and graduating from school and maybe starting college and getting your first job, a first date, all this. There's a soundtrack that is happening in the background. The songs that were on the radio provide that soundtrack for you. And for me, I mean, I'm guilty of being an 80s child. It was Journey in Kansas. It was a lot of Christian music at the time. I was kind of a Christian music zealot that drove everybody else crazy. So yeah, it would be Michael W. Smith and Petra, Stephen Curtis Chapman, all that kind of stuff. I don't know if Stephen Curtis was big back in the 80s. I don't know if he was around yet. It was early 90s when he really took off. Phil Keaggy, that kind of stuff. There was an album that my buddy Corey and I used to listen to all the time at the end of a long day. He was going to school in Stillwater, Oklahoma. And you know how you can be with your best friend and you can just talk. I mean, and hours go by. And we were that way. We would just sit back and we would just kick our feet up. And we threw, usually we'd throw some Sting on the, it was a tape player back then. We had Sting in the cassette player, but it was Sting's Nothing Like the Sun album, which to me remains one of my favorite albums of all time. He's got a song in the album called Fragile, which talks about the fragile condition of who we are as people and how often we are so eager to destroy such a fragile, beautiful thing. And it's a song that's done with kind of this acoustic Spanish kind of guitar, and it's very lush, and it's a different song. It's not radio-friendly stuff, but there's something about that song that I'd make sure I was listening to Sting is Nothing Like the Sun, specifically that song at least on my final day, for sure. What else? Honestly, I've been prepping the show, looking at everybody else's story. I've really not thought too much about what I would do. Keep it on the back burner here. Sophia said this: I'd go out making love in hopes to be found smeltered and preserved, entangled with another human. Carlos said I'd get me a case of beer, a bag of crisps, and I'd watch all the religious nutcases slaughter each other over who's going to be saved. Justin said, funny you should ask. See, our survival instinct is actually a powerful way of controlling people. If a man were immortal, he'd slowly lose that survival instinct and succumb to his lower nature. And the same happens in an inevitable world-ending scenario. If the world ended tomorrow, I hope you're fat and healthy because every store would be picked clean by looters. No food, no medical supplies, no goods or services. No businesses would be open. Nobody would enforce order in any way. That level of freedom among an enlightened species would be fine as they'd be perfectly self-regulating. Unfortunately, the majority of the human population is anything but enlightened. Gotta agree with you there, Justin. He says, for those that would choose to make love to any stranger on the street, just remember that being on the streets would probably get you shot at. It's a sad thought to have that as the world ends. Most people will be sitting on a pile of crap that they could get normally. That'd be the worst kind of greed and avarice. But the true soul-killing reality would be the sheer force of people racking up damage in a body count because nobody would stop them. I'd like to think, Justin, that those people would be the exception, not the rule. Unfortunately, all it takes is, all you have to do is throw one rogue into a pile of pacifists, of people who are with goodwill. All you need is one Tasmanian devil in there. All you need is one F5 tornado to wreck a whole city, that kind of thing. But you're right. The lowest common denominator would very likely ruin the party for the rest of us. Bartholomew said, "Greetings, Mr. Andrews. Don't call me Mr. I'm Seth. Nice to meet you." Bartholomew said, "I've been working on a poem for the last month which fits your theme for the upcoming episode. If I were superstitious, I might think it was meant to be instead of a fortunate coincidence. It's called What If. What if I only had a year to live? I'd quit my day job, throw myself into a poetic frenzy, leave a literary mess of wine-stained pages for someone else to clean up. What if I had 5 years to live? It'd be too soon to quit the day job, not having sufficient savings and too far from the end to even bother counting the sips left till the bottom of the glass. What if I had 10 years left? Being a man of a certain age, that's not unreasonable. Yet I still treat days as though they grew on vines, plucking sweet and juicy hours, ignoring the end of the row. With no heaven in which to rest and no hell to fear, I shall treat these remaining years like the final case from a dead vineyard, with only so many bottles left to savor and share." Bartholomew, thanks for sharing your poem. Ian said, "I'd go on a bender and watch the last 2 seasons of Breaking Bad. I've not finished them yet." Ian, the world is ending tomorrow. Let's just role play, all right? You got to finish Breaking Bad. I'm now into season 3 again, and it's amazing how much I've forgotten. I'm amazed at how good it is the second time around. Finish the series, Ian. The world may end tomorrow. Okay? Just between you and me. Just a little helpful advice for you. And like a fine wine, it just gets better. Okay? Al said I'd spend it at home with my wife and daughter. Let them know how much joy they brought to my life and thank them for sharing this amazing journey with me. I'd enjoy good wine and food, rock out on my guitar one last time, playing It's the End of the World as we know it. That day is coming for all of us, and we need to remember what really matters. It's hard to really say how you would behave, isn't it? I mean, we can theorize all we want. We can hypothesize all we want. But when the chips are down, do you really know how you would react? I'd spend every minute with my close family. I wonder if my religious parents and siblings would be all up in the Jesus thing, which would ruin the party for me. Or if they would be scratching on my door. The world ends in 22 hours. You've got 22 hours to drop to your knees and accept Jesus. That would spoil the party. And it would irritate me so much that even if I kicked them out or didn't let them in the door or didn't answer my phone after that, I would still be pissed off. Everything's a sign, right? Everything's a sign. I've mentioned that I wanted to travel to Australia. One of the places in the world I've always wanted to see. And with the Unholy Trinity tour going there in March, let's just say the world ends after that, so I don't have to put it on my list. I've always wanted to go to London. I always wanted to go see Big Ben and just experience London. I'd like to go to Ireland. I'm not even sure I'd care where in Ireland, but I would love to go. I'm not one of those people who would want to take risks because it didn't matter if I died. That's not why I don't take risks. I don't jump out of airplanes. I don't do roller coasters and all those things because I worry about death. I do it because they just scare the crap out of me. Heights and all of that. I mean, I can be in an airplane and I'm fine. Jumping out of one, hell no. And if it's the last day on Earth, especially hell no. I don't need that kind of adrenaline to feel alive. A cup of coffee will get me there just fine. Thank you very much. So it's not like I would be like, well, I'm going to go and try this thrill ride, and I'm going to go and grab Jeb Corliss, and we'll grab the bat suit and jump off a cliff. Just fly down. I'm not doing it. No. My fantasy's probably a calmer fantasy. It probably has something to do with blue waters, warm waters, a beach like white sand, fine sand, some peace and quiet, not a lot of people around. Just walking the beach and just listening to the waves and maybe have some soft music, glass of wine. You know what I'm saying? Just that kind of thing where you're not rushing. You're not pinballing around trying to get everything in, which is, some people vacation that way. Have you noticed? They actually stress themselves out more to relax than they do if they were working. Well, I've got 7 days of vacation coming. All right, here's what we're going to do. We're going to pack all of our clothes. We got to do this. What about the kids? We've got to pay for everything. Oh, my God, the plane tickets are so expensive. What about our luggage? What about a rental car? What about all of the food we're going to eat? How are we going to do this? Where are we going to stay? Geez, that's an expensive hotel. Can we try some other place? Well, what kind of tour stops will we do along the way? 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3 times 5 days. Okay, we've got to be here. Jesus. Smell the roses, man. And by the time you get back, it's late Sunday night, you drive home from the airport, you got to be at work at 8 the next morning, you're done. You have to go back to work to rest from resting. This makes no sense to me. And it is for this reason that I would like, I think, my last 24 hours to be a time to breathe, to savor the seconds, man. Your last sunrise. Your last coffee with real creamer, not half and half, not the powdered stuff. I want real cream. And just go, you know what? Give me 4 cups of it too. Real sugar. Bring it. I want my coffee to taste like candy. I'd like a ham and cheese omelet. I'll do sushi for lunch. For dinner, probably I don't know, what's the kind of food I don't eat all that often, but I really enjoy? Like Italian food. I don't do Italian often because it's kind of like eating a brick when you're done. Right? Oh, that was delicious fettuccine Alfredo. 2,200 calories, 50 grams of fat. If it doesn't matter, I'm like, come on, give me the extra Parmesan. And more bread, please. That's really how they get you. You're loaded up with bread and olive oil before the food even arrives. I'm saying bring me the bread. Let's roll the windows down and drive in the car. Let's breathe the air. Let's enjoy our favorite songs. Let's say the words to each other that we don't say often enough. Maybe we say them, but we don't say them often enough. And you find people who lose loved ones. That's something that we often hear them say is, I feel cheated out of the opportunity to say this before we lost them. It's funny, back when I was in radio, we had a meeting once at the owner's house, of all places. And there's a point to this story, so stick with me. He said, they're launching a competing radio station in this city. At the time, we were the only one doing what we did. We had no competition. There's a competitor they're starting up, and they're going to launch next month or something like that. And we're all like, oh, geez, what are we going to do? It's on, right? See you at the races. And then he asked us, what do you think we ought to do? What kind of things do we need to do to stay relevant, to be better, to hold on to our audience share and not lose that audience to someone else? What do you think? And we're all started throwing out ideas, and it was like an eager thing. I think we should do this. We need to get a better station band, and we need to probably work on our logo so our logo looks better, and we need to have more of this. We need to be more involved in the community, and we need to have these type of concerts, and we need to try this with our show clock and these type of contests. We could do this. Then we put together a big laundry list of stuff that we would do. And at the end of the meeting, He looked at us and he said, "There is no competitor. There's no other radio station that's planning to open up in this city." I lied. But we're going to do everything on this list. And when it was over, I thought, God, that's brilliant. All the stuff we'd been sitting on our hands around, all the stuff we hadn't said or hadn't been prompting ourselves to do, well, why hadn't we done them? We were just waiting? Waiting on what? Had an email from, is it Nuno, N-U-N-O? Who really put an exclamation mark on this, and I'll use it to cap the broadcast. It said this: "I love to think outside the box and question everything, so I'll question this question. What if the world ended tomorrow? Instead of, if the world ended tomorrow, what would you do? Wouldn't it sound better if we said the world ended tomorrow, what have you done?" I'm betting most people will choose to spend the last hours with their close family, their wives and kids, and tell them how important they were in their lives. And yet you should have already told them that many times before, not just because of this imminent virtual apocalypse. You may think of that trip or vacation you never did, and now you can't do. Well, that's precisely why I went last year to Australia, one of my lifetime dreams. What am I waiting for? Even if the money's short, it's just money. There's only one purpose for money. It is to spend, and there is no better way to spend money than to fulfill your dreams and share lifetime experiences with your loved ones. I challenge you to find a better use for money. Okay, charity, I agree. The interesting part of this question is how people only value those things when they will be gone soon or lost. The trick here is to value things when you already have them. I love to go to the gym and run on the treadmill. And when it becomes boring, I think of how lucky I am that I'm not in a wheelchair. And I run even faster. When I play basketball, I feel lucky that I still have arms and play even more. I love to read a good book while I still have good eyes. So in a nutshell, to answer your question, I won't do much during the last hours. I'm counting that I've already said what I had to say to my closest ones. I'm counting that I already visited what I wanted to visit. I did what I wanted to do. And I could not have said that any better. Thank you so much for the email. Next week on our broadcast, we're going to talk to Cara Santa Maria on a show called Talk Nerdy. She's got a science-based broadcast called Talk Nerdy to Me. We're going to talk some science. And if you have a question or comment for Cara, you can send those in to podcast@thethinkingatheist.com. I'll do my best to get that onto the show. Today's broadcast brought to you again by Harry's.com. Check him out. Log on and check out the Winter Winston set, which will totally be a home run as a holiday gift this year, and so much more. Go to Harry's.com and get $5 off your first purchase. Use the promo code ThinkingAtheist. $5 off your first purchase. It's HARRYS.com. Coupon code ThinkingAtheist. Harry's, a shave good enough to gift. And I'll see you next week. Take care.
Follow The Thinking Atheist on Facebook and Twitter. Watch dozens of original videos on the Thinking Atheist YouTube channel. And visit our website for resources, links, contact information, the editor's blog, and more. TheThinkingAtheist.com.